To highlight how simple the Singapore to China rail journey can be, I traveled with little more than passport, wallet, phone, and clothes. No pre-arranged visas or cash in hand. However, I do recommend eSIMs and local apps, and I share these in more detail in the description below. I also completed this journey in two separate stretches. First from Singapore to Bangkok in 2022, just post-COVID, then Bangkok to China in 2025. However, all information is up to date as of 2025, and this is a route I'm familiar with, having covered various sections many times through the years. For those really dedicating themselves to the journey, it is also possible to travel by MRT from the southernmost point of continental Asia on Sentosa Island in Singapore. However, I personally prefer a more laissez-faire, last-minute approach to travel, and I kind of fail at the first hurdle here with the train from Singapore to Malaysia. It is possible to take a train from Singapore to Malaysia, a short 5-minute, 2.2-kilometer stretch from the Woodlands train checkpoint in Singapore to JB Central in Johor Bahru in Malaysia. However, bookings need to be organized in advance, and I've never found myself with the time to do so. Instead, I follow a similar route by bus from the Woodlands bus interchange to JB Central. The bus, like the train, normally takes 30 to 60 minutes, including immigration on both sides, but during peak travel times and the bus can take hours. Passengers must disembark twice, first at Singapore Immigration and then again at Malaysian Customs, before continuing into JB Central Station. It is possible to continue the journey to Kuala Lumpur on the same day. A very early start is necessary, and times at immigration can be unpredictable with the bus journey. During weekends, for example, when Singaporeans hop the border for more affordable entertainment in Malaysia, we've been caught in immigration queues for up to 3 hours. An overnight stay may then be necessary in Johor Bahru before onward travel. The next stretch is traveling from Johor Bahru to Kuala Lumpur, a journey that will soon be much simpler, with a proposed electric train line connecting the two cities. When implemented, this connection will cut down travel time from over 7 hours to near 4 hours from Johor Bahru to Kuala Lumpur. However, this proposed line was penned for completion in August 2025. But now, in August 2025, it still looks unlikely to be fully operational in the near future. So instead, the journey from Johor Bahru takes a detour via a small town called Gemas, before forwarding on to Kuala Lumpur. Again, trains leave from JB Central Station and take roughly 4 hours to reach Gemas Station. For tickets, I personally turned up to the station to buy before departure, similar to what I do for each train journey right up to Bangkok here. However, it is advised to book in advance, and more so on weekends and holidays. This can be done online through the official KTMB website. So from Johor Bahru, I traveled on the 8:30 a.m. train to ensure onward travel to Kuala Lumpur. It is an early start, and the train to Gemas alone takes 4 hours 40 minutes. Thankfully, the train is comfortable for Southeast Asia standards, with reclining seats, clean toilets, a dining car, and nice enough scenery along the way. It is also best to book a forward-facing seat, otherwise you'll be traveling backwards, which can feel a bit weird. While Gemas is a potential overnight stopover on this journey, the better option is very much Johor Bahru. Even with a 2-hour 30-minute stopover in Gemas, I failed to find anything of interest, and I was relieved to board the onward train to Kuala Lumpur. For this stretch, I had bought my tickets at the station in Johor Bahru, and I do recommend booking in advance here. Otherwise, you might be stuck overnight in Gemas. From Gemas, we then switch from old-school diesel locomotives to a speedier electric train for the 2-hour 30-minute stretch to KL Central Station in Kuala Lumpur. Again, the train is comfortable with reclining seats, clean toilets, dining car, and nice enough scenery along the way. But some seats are again backward-facing, so be aware of this when booking tickets. So our next destination is Kuala Lumpur, the capital city of Malaysia. While it is possible to continue on to Butterworth on the same line for a potential stopover in Penang, it will be late, with a tight window to reach the ferry connection to Penang Island. Otherwise, Kuala Lumpur is one of the must-visit destinations on this train itinerary, and I'll be sharing the best stopovers and destination highlights along the way. After arriving to KL Central Station, there is an easy connection to Kuala Lumpur's convenient monorail system. In turn, the monorail connects to the convenient LRT and MRT lines, making it easy to explore the city. I personally recommend staying in the KLCC area, ideally with hotel views over the iconic Petronas Twin Towers, the crown jewel of Southeast Asia, before traveling out to other areas. However, it is the most expensive part of KL. Otherwise, many opt for the lively Bukit Bintang area, which is handy both for the monorail and Jalan Alor Food Street, which is normally my first port of call anyway. For those new to Kuala Lumpur, I'd recommend at least 2 to 3 days to explore the city. Then maybe some side quests to Batu Caves or Selangor, before embarking on the next stretch to Penang Island. It is possible to rush through this journey, skipping past Johor Bahru and again, Kuala Lumpur. In fact, you could be boarding a train to Bangkok by now, but this means overnighting in relatively boring places like Jamas and Butterworth, instead of experiencing some of Southeast Asia's most amazing destinations like Kuala Lumpur and Penang. Anyway, again we're taking the monorail to KL Central Station, where I again pick up train tickets to the port city of Butterworth. While our next destination is the island of Penang, it does require a short ferry ride from the port of Butterworth. But it is very much worth this fairly simple detour. Otherwise, for those in a hurry, it is possible to bypass Penang, to continue north towards the Thai border for a potential layover in the southern Thai city of Hat Yai. So the train journey to Butterworth normally takes around 3.5 to 4 hours on the ETS electric train lines. This depends on the service, where there are 3 options, although the only real noticeable difference is the number of stops and time taken to reach Penang. The fastest is the Express at 3.5 hours, then it's Platinum at around 4 hours, and then Gold, which I'd give a miss on this route. Again, each option is comfortable with reclining seats, clean toilets, dining car, and alternating backwards-facing seats. But the scenery and views are more diverse on this stretch, passing wetlands, before reaching the coast on the run-up to Butterworth. The next step, from arrival at Butterworth, is onward travel to the island of Penang, a fairly simple connection to and through the nearby Penang Central Transit Hub. Just follow the signs to Penang Central and then to the ferry. Ferries then leave from a connecting port at Penang Central, taking around 15 minutes, with departures leaving every 30 minutes and every 20 minutes during peak hours. Not long ago, it was car ferries used for this crossing, back in the good old days, but these were canceled following COVID in 2021, and now it's a pedestrian-only route. Otherwise, vehicles, including taxis and buses leaving Butterworth, can use the nearby bridge crossing to Penang Island. After crossing the Penang Strait, the ferry arrives to Georgetown, a designated UNESCO World Heritage Site, famous for its colonial architecture, colorful street art, rich multicultural heritage, and diverse street food. It is also an easily walkable city, and a short walk finds the main tourist areas from the arrival terminal. In Georgetown, I would normally recommend staying around the Chulia Street area, which, while a bit touristy, offers some great boutique and heritage hotels, as well as some of the best food in Penang and Malaysia. While Penang is an island destination, I don't think I've once seen sand in my many visits. For a beach retreat, I would always hop on another boat from Penang to Langkawi, but again, this crossing was also canceled over COVID. However, I am more than happy exploring the diverse melting pot of culture and cuisine in Penang, one of the best foodie cities in the world, and an essential highlight of this rail journey. Leaving Penang, we follow the same route as our arrival, only in reverse, taking the ferry to the pier at Penang Central, then follow the signs through Penang Central to the Butterworth train station. From Butterworth, it's then a couple of hours on the train to the border crossing at Padang Besar. This stretch is a long stretch, traveling from Penang to Bangkok, crossing the Thai-Malay border, before an overnight train to the capital city of Thailand, with the possibility of an overnight stay in Hat Yai. It's also a route I would take relatively often when living in Thailand, with regular visa runs to the Thai consulate in Penang. Anyway, this journey used to be much simpler with direct trains between Bangkok and Butterworth, but these were discontinued back in 2016 with the introduction of electric lines on the Malaysia side of the border. And while they were said to be reinstated in 2025, again, it doesn't look likely. Otherwise, from Butterworth to the border, travel is now on commuter trains, which are not quite as comfy as previous trains. No toilets, no food services, and it's not possible to reserve trains in advance. However, I've personally never had any issue finding seats available at Butterworth Station. And there is always a standing option if stuck, which sounds terrible, but there will be many comings and goings through the 2-hour journey to reach the border. The overnight trains from the Thai border to Bangkok leave in the evenings, and the train from Butterworth takes around 2 hours to reach the border town of Padang Besar. So it's best to leave Butterworth at around 2 to 3 p.m. if planning to take the connecting train from the border to Bangkok. This timing works well with midday hotel checkouts in Penang. However, earlier starts give the option for a quick stopover in the southern Thai city of Hat Yai. Otherwise, the next stop is Padang Besar, the border town between Malaysia and Thailand, where we must pass through immigration on both sides before continuing this journey. Normally, this takes around 20 to 30 minutes. A quick stamp out of Malaysia, then a stamp in on the Thai side of the border. Most Western passports will also be visa exempt, allowing for a stay of up to 30 days for tourism in Thailand in 2025. However, it is necessary to complete an online arrival card before reaching the border, and it's best to do this in advance. From Padang Besar, there are then two options. Either to connect with the special express train to Bangkok, or to forward to Hat Yai, where there are better options for onward train travel. From the Thai border to Hat Yai, there are regular third-class trains, taking around 45 minutes, which for me is the best part of this journey. Old-school carriages, revolving fans, clickety-clack, head out the window. Proper train travel. While I do love high-speed trains for speed and efficiency, and have traveled all over Japan on the super-fast Shinkansen network from the southern islands to northern Hokkaido, they do lack the romance and adventure of the old-school locomotives. It's like ditching the EV for a classical car, and for me, the old, unreliable trains of Thailand will always be my favorite mode of transport, regardless of how slow and inefficient they are. They kind of get there when they get there. But there is no hurry with the border crossing, and Hat Yai is a worthwhile stopover, so I'd recommend traveling early from Penang, and maybe even consider an overnight stay if in no hurry to reach Bangkok. Just remember to grab your onward tickets at Hat Yai train station, or Hat Yai Junction as it's better known, before going on to explore. While Hat Yai is the largest city of southern Thailand, it's still relatively small, and the city center can easily be covered on foot from the train station. Otherwise, it is used more as a waypoint for most visitors passing through the city, en route to the southern islands of Thailand. Anyway, from Hat Yai Junction, there are better options for onward travel, including the same special express train from Padang Besar and the border. Around 3 to 4 sleeper train options, all leaving in and around 6 p.m., then arriving in Bangkok early the next morning. Personally, I would go with the more modern CNR train, which is newer, cleaner, more comfortable, and the journey is also an hour faster than the next fastest option. And while I've always winged this journey, to be safe, you might want to book the CNR train in advance. Otherwise, with all trains, I would go with the first-class cabins when traveling as a couple, or the lower berth second-class sleeper carriages when going solo. In second class, when boarding and during the day, the train carriages are still set with seats, only to be converted into bunk beds in the evening by a train attendant. 2 bunks, upper and lower, each with a mattress, pillow, blanket, and a curtain for privacy. Then, the following morning, the bunk beds will be folded back into seats for the remainder of the journey. While these express trains all arrive in Bangkok early morning, there are some worthwhile stops along the way. First in Surat Thani, the jump-off point for the islands of the Gulf of Thailand, including Koh Samui, Koh Tao, and Koh Phangan. Then there's the laid-back resort town of Hua Hin, where the main beaches are within walking distance of the train station. Otherwise, Bangkok is the final destination on this line, with the train arriving to Krung Thep Afiwat Central Terminal at around breakfast time. It is then easy to connect to the convenient MRT underground trains, which in turn connect to the BTS SkyTrain stations. For me, Bangkok would actually be the starting point for most of these rail journeys. given I live there, or to be specific, the Asok area of Bangkok, which also makes for a convenient base for tourists with a handy location at the interchange of the SkyTrain and underground train lines in the Sukhumvit area of Bangkok. But Bangkok is rather huge, and I regularly find myself staying out in other parts of the city, like around the Riverside or Chinatown, maybe even the Siam shopping district. Fortunately, all these areas are easily connected by SkyTrain and metro lines these days, as well as travel back to the Krung Thep Amphiwat station for the next leg of the journey. So the next stretch to Vientiane is the halfway point of a 48-hour journey to Kunming in the Yunnan province of China. A journey I've covered a bunch of times in the past, but recently, in 2024, it became easier with the introduction of a direct train between Bangkok and Vientiane, leaving from Krung Thep Amphiwat station, arriving at the Vientiane Khamsavath railway station in Laos. Again, I traveled with little more than my passport, wallet, phone, and clothes. No laptop, printed paper, or pre-arranged visas. I also traveled solely with Thai baht, and neither took or received Lao Kip during my 24-hour stay in Laos. However, I did pre-book train tickets for both stages of this journey from Bangkok to China, just to be safe. So the journey from Bangkok to Vientiane takes roughly 12 hours, including border procedures and onward travel to the city center. This normally involves an overnight sleeper train from Bangkok to Nong Khai, leaving the main Krung Thep Amphiwat station in Bangkok and taking around 10 hours to the Nong Khai border for immigration before crossing the Thai-Lao Friendship Bridge into Laos. Again, I recommend the lower berth second-class sleepers for this journey with better space and window views at night. Bookings are easily made on D-Ticket, the official state railway of Thailand website. Just be sure the origin station is Krung Thep Amphiwat and the destination is Vientiane Khamsavath in Laos. It's also best to book in advance as berths for the direct train as they can sell out fast. However, there are alternative options. I found this on my recent booking where the direct trains from Bangkok to Vientiane were fully booked at least 2 weeks in advance. Fortunately, it is simple to switch to the earlier Nong Khai train and follow the same line from there. There are also benefits of the earlier Nong Khai train as the train is cleaner and more comfortable. You can also grab breakfast and queue up for immigration before hopping into the third-class seats when the direct Bangkok to Vientiane train arrives. While the sleeper berths may have been fully booked on the direct train to Vientiane, there will always be lots of third-class seats free for the journey from Nong Khai to Vientiane railway station. Tickets are also silly cheap at 35 baht in 2025. After passing immigration on the Thai side, a quick biometrics check and stamp out, the train crosses Friendship Bridge and takes roughly 35 minutes in total to reach the Vientiane railway station. Most passports will require a visa for Laos, which can be easily sorted in advance with an e-visa. However, it is advised to apply 2 to 3 days before travel, and on this instance I left it too late. Instead, I opted for a visa on arrival, which may have proved the better option, as the queues for arrivals were much larger with local Thai and Laos travelers. Otherwise, there was only a handful in the queue for visa on arrival. Either way, everyone must complete arrival char and departure cards made available on arrival at the Vientiane railway station. Here, you will need to clear immigration before onward travel to Vientiane city center. Note, this is not the same station for the Laos-China high-speed railway. Otherwise, it's a good 20 to 30-minute drive from Vientiane railway station to the center of Laos. It is easy to find taxis for onward travel, but they are comparatively expensive where the minibus makes a cheaper option for around 35 baht. Fortunately, almost everywhere in Vientiane accepts Thai baht, so you don't need to stress about currency exchange on arrival. This is where things can be a little tricky without a phone with data connection, so it's a good idea to save a map to the hotel. There are taxis and tuk-tuks, but not fixed pricing, and it's not a far walk to reach the riverside tourist areas. Fortunately, Vientiane is a fairly small city to navigate on foot, and the local rideshare app Loca is another option for those with data connection. While Vientiane is the main destination on this instance, it is also possible to bypass on the same day with onward travel to Vang Vieng or Luang Prabang. This involves shuttling from the main Khamsavath station to the Don Naon high-speed railway station for the Laos-China railway line. High-speed trains then leave at around 13:30, but do not travel as far as China at this time. An overnight stay is necessary in Laos for those continuing to China by train. So the train to China departs from the Vientiane high-speed railway station in dawn noon at around 8 a.m. This means an early start to reach the station, which is possible with a 7 a.m. bus from the morning market. To be safe, however, I booked a hotel taxi for around 300,000 kip. It then takes 20 to 25 minutes to reach the station, giving time to grab a paper ticket from the ticket office and check through security before boarding the train to China. The full journey takes around 9 hours and 30 minutes to Kunming, and I personally opt for first-class seats as there is not a large markup on both prices or comfort. I was seated on the left side of the train, which is best for views passing the scenic destinations like Vang Vieng and Luang Prabang, but I was also riding backwards, which felt a bit weird. It's best to double-check your seats when booking. Otherwise, the train was relatively empty until Luang Prabang, where it quickly filled with holidaymakers on their return journey to China. It takes roughly 3 hours 20 minutes from Vientiane to reach the Botan border crossing, where we hop off for immigration to leave Laos. Here, you must disembark with your luggage for security and passport checks before we're back onto the train. Then it is a short 10-kilometer crossing through Friendship Tunnel into China to disembark again, with luggage, at the Chinese checkpoint at Mohan for passport control and immigration. I personally traveled to China on an Irish passport, which, like many others, allows for 30-day visa-free travel in China. You will also need to complete an arrival card, which had been handed out earlier after boarding the train in Vientiane, giving plenty of time en route to complete them. Immigration is otherwise fairly quick and simple, as the international traveler queue is relatively small compared to travelers from China and Laos. So it takes roughly 20 minutes before we're ready to board again. From the China border, it is then a 4-hour, 30-minute or so journey to Kunming. There are a number of stops en route to Kunming, and passengers come and go, so it's easy to switch seats without an issue. Before starting the journey from Vientiane to China, I recommend first downloading some handy apps, because once on the train, it's a straight journey to the border, and these apps make travel so much simpler once in China. First is LCR Ticket, the official booking app for the Laos-China Railway. Alipay for digital payments. WeChat for translation and communication. Amaps, which is like Chinese Google Maps, and Didi Ride hailing is like the Chinese Uber. I've linked to all this information in the comments and description below, and with these apps, travel in China will be a breeze. We then arrive to Kunming Nan, also known as Kunming South Station, where onward travel should be simple with a pre-arranged eSIM and the handy apps I shared before. The high-speed trains then travel from Kunming to almost anywhere in China. It's 7 to 8 hours to Hong Kong, 10 to 11 hours to Beijing, Shanghai is 12 hours. But Kunming itself is an exciting city, and the surrounding Yunnan province shares many of my personal highlights of China, including Lijiang and Shangri-La, which are 4 and 6 hours respectively, along the same line. I again share full itineraries on these destinations in the description. Otherwise, on this visit, we traveled north to Sichuan province for the megacities of Chengdu and Chongqing, both around 7 hours on the high-speed trains. Pandas, fiery hot pots, and some of the best food not only in Asia, but the world.